In this video, I'm going to be talking about strategies to improve emotional intelligence in the workplace. My name is Paul Tobey from Training Business Pros. Thank you for joining me. Emotional intelligence is an important element of interacting in the workplace and pretty much any environment where there are social concerns. So I'm going to give you 5 tips and really important strategies to pay attention to in order to improve your emotional intelligence. Let's get started right now. Right, so today we're talking about emotional intelligence in the workplace and how to improve it. So I've got 5 strategies that you want to take a look at. Each one are important. Please stick around to the end because, of course, if you miss one of these, you might not have all the tools you need to succeed and upgrade your level of emotional intelligence. So one of the things you need to think about is in the workplace or in your interactions in a social setting, as your emotions go up, your intelligence goes down. So that's what it means by emotional intelligence, increasing the level of intelligence as it pertains to your feelings and emotions surrounding whatever's happening in the moment. So here are the 5 strategies that I want to talk about. The first one is self-awareness. That just means that you have to be the ever persistent silent watcher. What is that? It is the part of you that pays attention like you were looking at yourself in a movie. As you're interacting in the workplace or in other social situations, you essentially turn a camera on yourself and you become constantly aware of your actions and behaviors, thoughts and feelings. One of the things that is important to understand about this is most environments, especially if you're in them for a long time, creates your thoughts, which then creates feelings and emotions, which then creates an action, which then equals your results. So if the environment is a constantly negative environment, you're having negative thoughts, which create bad emotions, which then create bad actions, which equal lousy results. So it's important to be ever looking at the situation and your interaction with it. How are you behaving in the moment around other people? Number 2, self-regulation. So as you are the silent watcher and you're keeping an eye on yourself and being ever aware, you have to then regulate your behaviors. So regulation means, is there a commonly accepted behavior to deal with a specific situation? So as, of course, the situations and circumstances change, so must your behavior in dealing with that situation. And that's what self-regulation means. You're basically looking at the way that you're doing things, what you're saying, your gestures, your attitude, all of those things you have to self-regulate and you have to choose the most appropriate behavior and action in the moment. That's what self-regulation means. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Motivation. Now, this is a prime strategy for gaining emotional intelligence or improving emotional intelligence. And that would be whatever you're motivated about, you're vibrating more at a higher frequency. And that means your behavior is often admirable. So people will learn to respect you because you are consistently motivated by whatever's happening, whatever results that you're trying to create. The highest level of motivation, by the way, is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is basically a 2-parter. It has one part enjoyment. In other words, if you enjoy something, you're typically motivated by it. For example, I enjoy playing the piano. I'm motivated by that. I enjoy golfing. I'm motivated by that. And then on top of that, if you add a results-driven activity, in other words, you pick a clear goal and you add that to something you love, that creates enthusiasm. So it gives you a reason to jump out of bed in the morning, go after something, and that is what motivation is. So remember, enthusiasm is the highest level of motivation you can have. And that will generally then give you a much higher level of emotional intelligence because, of course, you're more happy and content and you love what you do and you're just great to be around and people will admire you and respect that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is one that people struggle with, and it is number 4, empathy. So if you think about a situation where somebody at work is constantly or continuously negative, they're always being sarcastic and they're, just basically carry with them a bad vibe, and you're having to work with this person and maybe they're not that good at their job and you're having to do things for them. There's a whole bunch of behaviors that this person could display that just doesn't sit well with you. However, at the same time that that's happening, you need to have a little bit of empathy for that person because, just as we discussed before, as your environment leads to your thoughts, which leads to your emotions, which leads to your actions, which equals your results, that person is creating a consistent bad result based on their consistent environment. So that environment may not be of their own doing. We all live in a co-created reality. So if that person, for example, has a history of parents who neglected them, or maybe they grew up in the foster care system. I mean, you have no idea sometimes what that person is going through, either past tense or present tense. So it's a good idea, in order to improve your emotional intelligence, to have empathy for other people rather than just fighting back. Because as we all know, fighting never really resolves anything. What I would suggest there is being right does not always get you what you want. So if you're fighting, you're just fighting to be heard and to be right. And the other person walks away dejected, and then of course that whole relationship breaks down. So it's not always about being right. It's about, again, having empathy for other people, understanding their situation, and then beginning to work through it together. And that's why empathy is a much higher level of emotional intelligence. So then let's move on to number 5. In the workplace and in other situations, there are a certain level of social skills that you need to develop in order to participate in a commonly accepted manner. Let me give you an example. On the golf course yesterday, I ended up playing with a husband and wife pairing who started out great, but immediately the wife seemed like she was a little bit off. She was not happy at all with her golf game. And by like the 5th hole, she has one of those electric carts that she uses a remote control and her bags sit on it and she drives it around the course. She ended up driving it into a sand trap. It fell over, got sand all in the mechanism, all in the thing, in the golf clubs, everything. It was just kind of like a mess. We were holding up the group behind us. We're all helping her get it out. And then she just sort of like left the group at that particular point. She did not continue on past that point. So the commonly accepted practice, especially in golf, is to understand that it's not an easy game, that sometimes people have bad days. And I simply said to the husband, make sure you tell her, for me, that I enjoyed her company while she was with us. So again, I mean, there's just these social norms that you have to adhere to in any specific situation. I mean, obviously that's a country club atmosphere. They have their own rules and regulations. Golf has its own rules and regulations. Work has its own rules, etc. And therefore you need to adapt and create social skills that match that particular situation. So there's 5 really important things to take a look at in order to increase your emotional intelligence over time. Again, it's important to always be watching and be self-regulatory about the way that you're behaving among other people. If you'd like to ask a question or post any comments about this subject matter, I would really welcome that. Please do it below this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.